You're listening to Episode 8, Back to NP School, How NP Student Magazine Supports Future NPs. Join us as Dr. Patrice Little, CEO of NP Student, discusses the vital role of NP Student Magazine in supporting aspiring nurse practitioners on their educational journey. She will be sharing insights into the development of NP Student Bootcamp and how it equips registered nurses for the challenges of NP school. Dr. Little also delves into her latest publication, The Starter Guide to Think Like an NP, addressing common misconceptions and providing essential advice for future nurse practitioners, especially what they don't tell you about your NP education. This conversation highlights her extensive experience in policy, advocacy, and the critical role of education in overcoming barriers in nursing practice. Lastly, stay tuned for a special announcement about NP Student Magazine and learn about publication opportunities for NP students and faculty to contribute.
You're listening to an episode of Listen Up Future Nurse Podcast. Scan the QR code if you're watching, or click the link in the podcast show notes to get your virtual remote. Make sure to tune in and subscribe on Spreaker and follow us on all your favorite podcast locations. And watch us live online on all of your favorite social media sites.
No login, no problem. No matter if social media isn't your thing or you're taking a break, you can listen in right on our website. Save your data and this episode by downloading it from our website, nursinginspired.com/podcast. So if you have to take a pause, you don't lose your place where you were listening or your battery power. That'll also help our podcast rankings rise to the top.
This podcast is hosted by Fallon M. Flowers.
Dr. Patrice Little is a transformative figure in nurse practitioner education and practice, bringing a decade of family NP expertise to the forefront of professional advancement. As the CEO of NP Student, she developed a program to support RNs in becoming NPs while establishing key educational and organizational partnerships with the NP Student Enterprise, which includes NP Student Magazine and NP Student Bootcamp. Previously serving as a senior policy advisor at the Campaign for Action, Dr. Little aided state APRN organizations in policy navigation regarding scope of practice and worked to eliminate barriers in nursing education for pre-licensure students. Her scholarly work includes contributions to the Advanced Practice Nursing Leadership of Global Perspective 2020 publication and The Future of Nursing 2020 to 2030 Global Applications to Advance Health Equity 2023 publication, highlighting her dedication to nursing advancement and policy. Her latest publication, The Starter Guide to Think Like an NP, Everything You Need to Know Before Applying to NP School 2024, is a testament to her commitment to educating and empowering the next generation of NPs with knowledge and mindset required for success. During Georgia's legislative sessions, Dr. Little serves as a content producer for the Emmy Award-winning Lawmaker Show, demonstrating her transferable communication skills and talent for making complex policy information understandable to the public. In addition, Dr. Little's participating in the Healing Politics Campaign School emphasizes her dedication to political strategy and healthcare advocacy. As the director at large, Dr. Little assists the board in strengthening Georgia's APRN role through advocacy, educational excellence, and media strategy. With her extensive background in policy, research, and media, she comes equipped to lead efforts to unite academia and practice within state and beyond. She holds a DNP degree from Georgia Baptist College of Nursing of Mercer University, an MSN from Grinnell University, and BS degrees in biology, pre-med, and nursing from Georgia Southwestern State University. She is a member of the Atlanta Association of Black Journalists, AABJ, the American Association of Nurse Practitioners, AANP, and the Gwyneth Forsyth chapter of UAPRN.
Welcome, 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 Dr. Patricia Little. Welcome, guests. We are now live. Thank you so much for joining us. What an extensive background. I'm so happy to have you here today.
I'm delighted to be here, and I'm so excited about everything that we have in store to encourage this our readers and our listeners.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so this is such a great time to have you on because the last episode I was talking about back to school, and this is back to school season. And now we're looking at back to NP school because I do know a lot of the listeners have an interest in becoming nurse practitioners and continuing their education on. And so, there were times for some people where they only knew they wanted to be a nurse, and maybe later, while they had been a nurse for a while, they wanted to become a nurse practitioner. But some people know coming into this that, hey, no, I know I want to be a nurse practitioner, and becoming a nurse is something I want to do along the way. So I'm so grateful to have you here because you are the expert with your magazine and everything that you're doing. And so with that, I definitely want to know from you where you were in that. So, what made you want to become a nurse practitioner? Just kind of starting off.
Well, I'm going to pull from what you mentioned in the introduction, in the sense that many individuals, they become a nurse to become a nurse practitioner. And as you mentioned earlier when you read the bio, as far as my background in biology pre-med, I was finishing up that degree, and I wanted to explore other types of positions in the healthcare arena. And the position that interests me the most was the nurse practitioner position on campus. We had a nurse practitioner, and she was always engaged with the students. And so I was intrigued, and I asked her if I could shadow her, which eventually turned into a volunteer opportunity and then a work study opportunity where I got to explore the life behind being a nurse practitioner. So the day in the life of an NP. And that's what solidified, hey, I am going to go to nursing school because my end goal is to become an NP.
Wow, wow, that's so amazing. I just think about back when because I was also biology pre-med, prior to, just finding out what a nurse practitioner is. But we didn't have, as far as I know anyway, nurse practitioners on our school health like campus. But, that's, when I think about representation matters, that's what really makes a difference. Because what if that nurse practitioner wasn't there? You wouldn't have been exposed, for one, just in general, to know that that's a career path. But you also wouldn't have had that opportunity to shadow, and I just barely missed mine. I think about I was in a program where I was, needed to do an internship to kind of finish my major, and I was shadowing in a future doctors, future leaders program. So although it was led by an MD, it just happened that the one day that he needed to be out at the hospital, a nurse practitioner was there, and I met her, and I shadowed her that day, and and that's what made me start asking questions and wanting to know more, and realizing, wow, this is something I have an option to do too. So that's absolutely amazing to know the similarities, really, also as well, that
It
we had a little bit in that. Um, and then going forward, what about your nurse practitioner journey? Like, tell us like what your whole process was with schools that you selected, how many you selected, if you're okay with mentioning how old you were when you started nurse practitioner school. Give us the tea.
Yes. Well, I'm always delighted to share my age because I also give tips on how to preserve being youthful when you get to your mid 40s in the magazine. But yeah, so what happened was that I wanted to select a school that went along with my lifestyle. And quite frankly, that's really what it's about for this generation. We're a lot different from how our predecessors were, from the nurses that have been around for quite some time. What happened is that I was married and we had one child at the time, and I was in like late 20s, I want to say like 29. And I was saying, okay, I'm ready to become an NP. I just need to know where I need to go. And so, and I mentioned that in the book, The Start Guide to Think Like an NP, I started to do my work because I really believe in what Stephen Covey says. You start with the end in mind. And the end in mind for me was I envisioned myself attending a school that was close to home, that still had the provisions where I can work full time and still be a devoted wife and a mother. So I had already narrowed down the type of school that will be ideal for me. But when you do that, you also have to make sure that those type of schools will still give you the foundation and have everything aligned. So when you start the program, you're not on your own in a sense where, and what I'm alluding to is like preceptorship, where you're like, okay, everything else aligns with my personal life. And then you start the program and then it's sink or swim when it comes to preceptorship. So just in short, that's the route that I took. And I went to I say interest meetings or informational sessions. It just all depends on what the schools call them, and some call them open house. I went to the one at Georgia Baptist College of Nursing, where I end up receiving my DNP degree, but I went there first to explore the MSN program. Then I went to Grinnell University. So they were both in proximity for me, where I was going to have the convenience and as well as quality education. And that's how I went about my selection. Even though in the book I highlight the importance, like now looking back in hindsight, right?
Yeah.
Talk about just making sure the values, your core values align, that their mission statement there's some type of connection with your personal mission statement. And I didn't do it to all that extent, but I did, when I went to the informational session, it did help me see myself there. Like, could I see myself there? And that's usually what I encourage those who are interested, that it's not just, let me apply to any NP school and cast out this wide net. It's really to take the time to do some research about the school and how it will fit your lifestyle. And that's why our slogan with NP Student Magazine says, it's more than a license, it's a lifestyle. And our content is guided by the 7 NP Student Life Framework. So or 7 aspects, pardon me, of NP Student Life Framework. It guides all of our content because that's the direction where things are going. And that's how we combat burnout. And of course, I'm saying recidivism, but in this sense, where keeping people staying at the school, at employment, retention, and so forth. So that's how we address it.
Wow. You just dropped so many different pearls there, and then also kind of gave us a little sneak peek into what you have going on with the NP Magazine. You said something about cast the net, and that I just kind of wanted to kind of go back on a little bit. You were saying how you don't cast a net, right, for nurse practitioner school. And you kind of talked about in your journey how you kind of went to a few information sessions for a couple of schools and kind of made your decision, and I think about for what I do here with Nursing Inspired and helping future nurses, where they actually do cast a wide net, because for nursing school and and your selection strategy, it's different because there's so many varieties of ways that you can become a nurse, for one, but you also, because of the competitiveness, you need to have a nice number of schools to select from. But here you selected from and kind of visited 2 schools that you mentioned. But the biggest difference, if you could kind of highlight a little bit, is when we're looking at nursing school, we're looking at schools to become a nurse. But when we're looking at nurse practitioner school, we kind of have to know what we want to do as far as becoming a nurse practitioner. Like, what type? Is that a part of some of your top seven that you mentioned, as far as knowing the specialty that you want to go into? Like for me as a WHMP, for instance, or someone who's a family nurse practitioner, et cetera.
To clarify, when you say the seven aspect of NP student life.
Yes, because I knew it was something 7 that you had in your with your program and
Okay.
everything.
So the 7 aspect of NP student life is the framework that guides the content. There is
Yes.
7 aspect in life. So you have your social, you have the mindset, you have NP school, which is personal development, you have spirituality, you have love and relationships, you have financial wellness, and you have health and wellness. So that's where we talk about where our content is holistic, so we can meet all the needs. But when it goes to having a list that you follow to be intentional when it comes to select a nurse practitioner program, we do outline that in the starter guide to think like an NP. And a matter of fact, the end of every chapter, there is a checklist. There's actionable steps for you to do everything. So we do things, as we mention, things as like looking at the mission statement, looking at the cost, looking at accreditation and where they are in accreditation, looking at as far as job placement, some of the things you have to call afterwards. Like, for instance, if you are interested in a particular school and there are 30 nurse practitioners that graduate every semester. Of those 30 nurse practitioners, how many pass boards on the first try? Then after that, how many of them land jobs within 6 months to a year? Really want to know as far as what things do they have in place to support that journey of transition post graduation. In the sense that, like that last semester of NP school, there should be things in place such as NP board exam prep, as well as someone talking to them about jobs. Like Brunel did a great job having guest speakers talking to us about locum tenens and other job opportunities, because in some areas across the nation, sometimes the positions are saturated. I reside in Metro Atlanta. So if you're an FMP, it may not be as easy to land a job versus being in South Georgia for an FMP, because there's so many people in the metro area. Now, if you're going to acute care, women's health, pediatric, you start going to those specialties, it may be a little bit easier to land a job. So I say that I don't want to digress too much, but these are the things you have to take your time and be intentional. And we talk about that. When you start with the end in mind, where is it that you want to be post-graduation? Do you want to be 1 year out and still haven't landed your NP job? Or do you want to have certain things in place? Now, we know in life, mayhem can happen. So you can't really prepare for those things that are unexpected, but what you can, like you do in business, right? You can have that plan and have those SMART goals as far as what you're going after. So when you don't get that, you have that next step of what to do. You have some type of anticipation that's in place. And so that's what we strive to get those who aspire to be NPs to start thinking about. That's why it's called Think Like an NP, because when you get into the role as a nurse practitioner, you have to anticipate things that come along with your patients and their presentation. So we answer quite a bit, and it's awesome. Short read, but it is really packed with just about everything you need to know before you apply to NP school.
Oh my goodness. Okay. I definitely want to hear more about this when we come back from the commercial break. But I love that you mentioned, some things to think about for people who want to become nurse practitioners and the schools and how they prepare you, because that kind of took me back to
when you mentioned how they had people talking about different job opportunities and the saturation and some different things that you can kind of look at, and can you get employed, within 6 months to a year after graduation, but before that, passing the boards. And so some of this sounds like it still follows a little bit like what you look at for when you're looking at a nursing school, but it's even more specific for sure in that realm. But I know for us in my nurse practitioner program, the ISAPN, which is our state organization for nurse practitioners here in Illinois, they actually brought in an attorney. It was a little bit like a boot camp, I think they called it. Actually, they did call it a boot camp. But we had an attorney and we talked about contracts and things. But what would have been nice actually would have been to talk about jobs, because while you talked about in your area, for instance, in certain areas, rather, it's kind of maybe saturated for FNPs. But I can say, like, for me, for WHMP, it's not as much, positions available here in our area. But if I look in California, if I look in Nevada, or, places like that by Vegas, there's tons and tons of WHMP programs everywhere between them and California. But here is far and few between. We have a lot of gynecologists, MDs here, and so the need for the WHMP is kind of not as high. And then there's even been a shift somewhat for some employers to look at certified nurse midwives instead of WHMPs for women's health. And so that aspect is really important, that schools talk to you, because again, you don't know what you don't know. I didn't know when I started. I don't even know how many years ago that was. Oh my God, it's been almost 10 years. I'm just looking at the clock.
Yeah.
Yeah, I started my program in 2013. Yeah, I didn't know at that time how much things were changing or going to change, or what the landscape was going to be when it comes to, being employable. And I certainly hadn't even thought about at the time looking at, how often, students pass the first time around for that exam. And for us, we have a different licensure exam, certification exam than, folks like the FNP, for instance, and PEDS and psych and things like that. We have a whole different board. So while everybody kind of focuses on the main one for FNP, nobody really thinks that much about the specialties sometimes. And, I don't know what you have in your experience with schools that you work with and students, but there's a bigger focus, of course, for sure, on folks that are going the FNP route when it comes to that that certification exam.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And it reminds me, when you talk about the certification exam and the specialties, it reminds me of the question that you had asked earlier about the different specialties. It's really thinking about, okay, I work in this area now, like for instance, if you work in labor and delivery, and you're like, but I want to work in women's health. So that helps you determine the specialties. Sometimes, unfortunately, there isn't a particular program for a specialty like aesthetics, and we highlight that in the NP Student magazine, as well as on our YouTube with a past interview. And so what happens is you end up doing the FNP route, and then when you finish, you get additional training in that subspecialty, which is like aesthetics. And then you move on into that with, of course, maybe starting your own practice or working along with a dermatologist or a cosmetic or plastic surgeon. So you're absolutely right. Oftentimes, when it comes to the board preparation, they just focus on just the FNP in the general. But I really believe that schools are doing a better job now as making sure that the FNP board preparation that they encourage students to do before graduation is aligned with their specialty. And so there's quite a bit of things that have advanced over the years. So I do commend schools for doing a good job with that, making sure things are aligned.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so I want to go to a quick commercial break, and then we'll come on back because I want to know more about that book and your boot camp and all the things that you have going on, because you are really serving it up here in the NP world. Absolutely.
Attention business owners. Are you ready to tap into the fast-growing market of the nursing community? Partner with us to showcase your products or services to this dedicated audience. Nursing programs, especially at HBCUs, educational programs like CNA, phlebotomy, and CPR, healthcare staffing agencies, and businesses focused on self-care and mental health support. If you're a business focused on providing solutions for the nursing inspired, our platform provides a unique opportunity to especially connect with future nurses eager to invest in their education and career. You could be next for a sponsorship advertising opportunity on the Listen Up Future Nurse podcast. Contact us at info@nursinginspired.com to learn more about advertising opportunities today.
Did you know you can apply to over 50 historically black colleges and universities at the same time for only $20? You can with the Common Black College application. Hello, my name is Robert Mason. I'm the founder of the CBCA. Students around the world have completed the application and received multiple acceptance letters, financial aid packages, and scholarship offers. So visit our website at commonblackcollegeapp.com to apply now. And don't forget to pick up the book, Get Educated, the man behind the Common Black College application. Thank you, and get educated.
All right, we are back. And so please tell us about this book that you have shared here a couple of times on the screen. Tell us about the inspiration that you had behind not only the book, but also your magazine and how you are supporting aspiring NPs.
Well, I would first like to preface my response with the fact that our platform, we make sure that we provide all types of resources to meet nurse practitioner or aspiring nurse practitioners where they are in their nurse practitioner journey. So the book comes from that in the sense that there's the frequently asked questions that people have. And how the platform started, I like to call it the NP Student Enterprise. How it started was with just NP Student Magazine. Oftentimes people say, well, were you just studying trends or what encouraged you? Were you thinking about how to start a business? But I always tell them that I am a person of faith, and I'm not going to go into a mini sermon about how my faith is what got me to where I am. But I will say is that if you do not have subscribed to any particular type of faith or religious practice, that naturally most humans, they have this gut feeling of things that they should be doing. And you can call it purpose, you can call it destiny, whatever you like to use to describe it. And it's so important that you adhere to that. And I know I'm supposed to be talking about the backstory and the inspiration with the magazine Bootcamp and the books, but I always like to inspire individuals to listen to their gut, to listen to their own voice. And really what happened was I used to compete in pageants. I did that. I was Mrs. Gwinnett County back in 2015. And then I was Mrs. Atlanta International back in 2017. And I was fourth runner-up, as well as People's Choice. And also some other perks with that, which is how I was able to enter into the media realm doing Christian talk shows. And so what ended up happening was I was like, okay, God, I did not go into pageantry to lose. And usually I, as an athlete, no matter how small I got, I was always between like an 8, or I'm giving numbers for a reason, size 8, as a married woman with 2 children. But prior to that, still not small enough because I was athletically built. And what happens is in pageantry, oftentimes they're really, really, really lean. And it's even though it was like I was slim, but I wasn't slim enough. And that's just how it goes as far as that territory. And so I'm like, okay, I know I was not created to lose. What was I created to do? And really what happened is I put it out in the atmosphere through a prayer. And eventually it came to me to start a magazine. And then I was like, okay, to start a magazine. It was just really weird. And next thing I know, a couple months later, probably less than a month later, one of my pageant sisters, she had her birthday party, and I met another pageant queen that was there. And we were just getting to know each other while the party was getting started. And she was like, oh, tell me a little bit about yourself. What do you do? And I said, I'm a nurse practitioner, but all of a sudden I have this like desire to start a magazine. And she was like, really? Well, if you need help, I'm the former manager of NASCAR magazine and I will help you. So oftentimes when people are like, well, how did she get started? It's really what you are created to do. Everything will align. All you have to do is say yes to the very first step. And the first step was, yeah, okay, I'll start this magazine. I don't know where I'm going to get the money to do it. I don't know how I'm going to come out with the layout. And so that's what happened. But above all, it was always in me. My gift has always been communication when it comes to writing and doing production. I was already writing on platforms before I started NP Student Magazine. I was on the parent advisory board for Atlanta Parent Magazine. I was always doing things that involve, And so that's another thing. It starts small. Those small commitments often end up leading you to what you were truly created to, that's larger. But you have to listen to enjoy it, enjoy that journey. So that's the backstory with it. And when I started the magazine, it was really like, okay, I'm starting this because of the message that I downloaded when I was a 21-year-old woman who said, okay, I am in this biology pre-med program. I'm thinking about becoming a nurse practitioner. And my mentor at the time, who was the nurse practitioner over the student health center, she says, I want you to finish the program, your biology degree, and then go into nursing. And I was supposed to be the one in the family. I'm first generation American, the first one born in the US. So I was supposed to be the one in the family to become the MD. So my family still got that. My sister is a surgeon, ear, nose, and throat surgeon, my baby sister. But with me, I heard a still small voice said, you can go on and be a physician, or you can go on and bring a change to the nursing profession. I was like, what am I hearing? And you have to be cautious of telling people of the voices that you hear, because sometimes people think it's a mental health thing. But clearly, if I have a platform that's this vibrant, incredible, that's not it's something it was an inspiration. So that's where all that came from. It was like, wait a minute, I was created to bring about change. And to, like, I always tell individuals when I try to get them to sponsor the magazine, either an article, I say, look, here's the deal. Nurse practitioners have been around since 1965. So for over 60 years, there was no dedicated association or publication for nurse practitioner students. Now, mind you, we understand we have American Association of Nurse Practitioners, a great organization. In fact, I am a member. But we always have to think about, what about that niche where the unique needs of nurse practitioner students? Because nurse practitioner students, they're not that traditional entry level college students. They are master students who are, when we look at the demographics, we always have to look at the demographics of who we're serving. We have 85% female, which most of the times these females are either going to already be married or getting ready to be married. So what happens is you have males, and the male part is growing 15% males. You always have to think about the direction of where things are going and their interests. Their interest is lifestyle. That's the generation we're serving. Oftentimes people want to say Gen Z and millennials, that we're self-absorbed. It's not that. What happens is we have observed what our parents and our grandparents have gone through. They have committed and dedicated their lives 20 to 30 years to certain employers, only to be laid off at a time in their life where they needed that job the most. So how do we make it attracted to them, attracted, like this, becoming a nurse practitioner attracted to them?
Yes.
Or attractive, I should say. We need to talk about health and flexible study options, as well as highlight human interest stories. There's so many stories. I've had the privilege since 2018, when we started, basically since its inception, to really learn about the uniqueness of the nurse practitioner profession. And it's not those, I'm grateful for those who have, have their awards and credentials. Those are great. But what about those in the making? What about and I have the freedom to share her story, but I'm not going to give her name, but a nurse practitioner who, while in the program, she was pregnant. Most of us are in that. When we go, I was pregnant in nursing school and pregnant in NP school. And at the time, my husband was in school as well when I was in nursing school. So I see that because we're starting families and we still want to get our career and all these things that are going on, but we're not talking about those things. We're not talking about the actual issues that impact students while they are matriculating through the program. How can we better support them? How can we let them know that they're not alone? How can we make sure we vet some of the products and services that they plan to use before they even think about looking for that? And that's really much in a nutshell with this whole NP student platform. We make sure we have something from the time you inspire, which is the starter guide to think like an NP, to the time you are in the program, NP Student Magazine, even up until the time just before you start the program with our NP Student Bootcamp, which is 4 hours that, of course, have been proved through Montana Nurses Association to get contact hours, where you could get an introduction to the core activities of a nurse practitioner. Because oftentimes, many of the students, they do not work as far as direct care before they go into an NP program. And we talk about that. There's some insights that are shared from esteemed NPs across the nation in the book. And they talk about that, about getting your hands-on skill before NP school. We talk about that because I happen to be one where I only had 9 months of direct hands-on care, even though I was a nurse practitioner for RN for 3 years before I went to NP school. However, my direct hands-on care was 9 months. Naturally, because I taught high school for 3 years and I used to develop curriculums, all this in my early 20s. It was
you were busy.
Yeah. So my first year of teaching high school, it was like, hey, we want to pull you on this committee where we could help with the 9th grade retention. And then when I left there and moved because I got married, they were like, hey, we want to pull you on this community to write the curriculum for the whole county for the physical science program. So it has always, I say that because I want people to grasp not really NP Student Magazine or NP Student Bootcamp or NP Student or the book. I want them to grasp listening to your spirit, to that voice, whatever is telling you to do those next steps when it comes to your career, because that's the surely guarantee that you're going to have joy, peace, and be financially secured in what you're doing. That's really what it is. And these things, such as the book, the boot camp, and the magazine, those are just tools. Those are tools that I've been allowed to create or chosen to create so I can help others. And through that, they'll be inspired to be their true, authentic selves. And that's what it's about.
You better preach. You better preach. I love how you said what you were allowed, to share. Because I'm a believer too, and as I say sometimes that that God is the source and we are the resource. And while we may be creative, it's because he is the creator. So, we do have to look for an origin, as a kind of a part of our origin story. What's our inspiration? Because you kept talking about inspiration. I'm like, yes, this is exactly why we have you here with Nursing Inspired. Wonderful, to truly have you here and just talking about that inner voice, or something told me something. You got to be able to know, to discern that, and hear and know that's from the Holy Spirit. Because you're right, it is hard for people to gather sometimes when you say, oh, I heard a voice, or I heard something, and if they don't
Yeah.
understand, it's like, no, it's not one of those. You don't have to
Yeah.
call a psych consult or nothing. I'm here and I'm well. And there's a difference between just like we talk about a difference between vision and sight.
Mhm.
There's also that difference of hearing something, and in that way, there's a difference in that as well. But I really love everything you were talking about with that these are all tools, but your story behind it all, the teaching that you did when you were teaching high school students, and all of the things that kind of brought you to this point. And so, you all make sure that you get out there and check out this book and this magazine and this boot camp that she has. Because Dr. Patrice Little here is really laying down the law when it comes to this. And it was something else in relation to when you were saying that really kind of made me think back a little bit. But gosh, I don't know what it was. But yes, I did want to actually know. So you talked about your time in education and these tools that you have to kind of help out, and some of your inspiration behind this. But you also, as a nurse practitioner, have some experience in policy. Can you tell us about how you got started in policy surrounding nurse practitioners and nurse practitioner education and that whole realm?
Absolutely. With me, there's always some type of interest story to set things up before I get to the point. And quite frankly, I was planning on focusing on the delay in calling EMS for inmates, because at the time I was working
Hmm.
as a nurse practitioner for the urgent care. And what ended up happening is I end up in a horrific car accident. I almost died. And for some reason, that blow to the head, because I've had quite a bit of concussions,
Wow.
was the time where I was still enough where it was just like, you need to work on policy. There again, there's that
Mm.
voice. So I went to my advisor and I said, here's the deal. The jail is saying that the inmates are a vulnerable population, so I will not be able to do my DNP project on that. Okay.
Wow.
And so she said, how about this? Right now, Georgia's trying to gain full practice authority. And of course, for those who've tuning in and not for sure what, or not familiar with what full practice is, that is the practice environment for a nurse practitioner. So it determines whether or not they need a document on file called a collaborative agreement that says they have to have a supervising physician. Georgia is one of, I believe, the 12 states that are left that is a restricted practice state. And
Mm.
so at the time, I was doing some work and exploration on how we can unite the voices of the different APRN groups so we can present a cohesive message to the state legislators when it comes to bringing about change, particularly access to care to Georgians. And so with that, that's where that started. And next thing you know, as things started unfolding, I started tuning in to AARP at the time. They would have different types of access to care calls. And while doing my research, or in a sense of like literature review, I started taking an interest to the different authors. And one in particular is Dr. Andrea Broussard, who to this day I keep in touch with. And she has been very instrumental in many of the states gaining full practice authority. So with that being said, I reached out to her, when I encourage all who are tuning in to do that. As you explore, I got to throw this plug in. as you explore what you are leaning towards in life and what you want to do, take interest in the body of literature, those authors who have contributed to it, those expertise, and email them, reach out to them. Many of them will be inviting, just like Dr. Broussard was, because you are genuinely interested in that work. And so Dr. Broussard started outlining the steps, as most mentors would do, as far as how to really become more knowledgeable in this space. And as things unfolded, I started presenting my outcomes for, which basically scholarly work is outcomes for DNP. And at different symposiums, local, as well as the Graduate Nursing Student Academy for their first symposium, or I would say conference. And it started unfolding there. And then I learned about, at the time, the Nurses in Washington internship, which since then has dissolved as post-pandemic. That I started taking interest in that. So anything that had to do with legislative practice, health policy, I decided to take interest in it. And I created my own school. Oftentimes people say, well, I want to do this, but how do I get started without going back to school? Create your own school.
Yeah.
We're all creators, and we have the gift to be creative. And what you do, you create your own curriculum.
Absolutely.
And so eventually, while doing that, things started unfolding. And I know because of time, won't be able to go into the full story, but all of that, those foundational work that I did, where it wasn't displayed publicly, it set me up for the position to serve as a content producer. So the fact that from January to the end of March, I worked closely with state legislators. I booked the governor for the television show so they could share updates that go on during the legislative session to their constituents. I work closely with the hosts. I book, of course, the guests, commentators, which are also people who have a legislative or expertise to be on the show and comment on what may have happened during the sessions. And so that involves writing the questions, doing a lot of research. I do quite a bit of research to do that. And all of that is part of the work that I do today when it comes to legislation. So I say that because I want people to also grasp from this that your path may not look like everyone else. And do not be too distracted on what you see on social media. You have to really focus on really what's unfolding in your life. And it's okay to follow people as a form of inspiration, but just try to avoid being too much of a copycat. Because what happens is it delays you going into your destiny. Wow. Again, I know I'm supposed to be talking about students, but it's about inspiration. And that's sort of, because this is who I am authentically. And it shows through the work that I produce. And that's what it's about. Because what happens is many nurses, they end up carving out their own path for what they're created to do. And when you do that, things always end up well. It always ends up well.
Yes, absolutely. We have to follow purpose. We can follow other people, absolutely. We can listen to, that higher power, the Holy Spirit who we believe in. But, we do have to make sure that that path is the one that's laid out before us, I was almost about to go up, Lord. I just heard, for I know the plans that I have for you.
Yep.
I almost went there, Lord. All right, I hold it down. But you're absolutely right, and we just never really know what we're called to, and that work in the political realm is so important because not only does it affect us as everyday citizens. It affects our family members. It affects our patients and who we serve.
Yep.
In that realm, just with healthcare policy that's placed out. But then what about the different things that affect us and our practice, and things such as full practice authority and having collaborative agreements and those different types of things? Because yeah, we here in Illinois, we still, you can become full practice authority here. So we do have that, but the compact agreements we don't have. There's some things that we still just don't have.
Correct.
So it's just like, give and take. So although it would be nice to be able to have a multi-state license in multiple places, we do at least have the opportunity here in Illinois to say, hey, if I have so many hours of practice, and I've had this signed off, I can now, put FPA behind my name and be a full practice authority nurse practitioner. But that awareness and involvement, I believe, is really important. I believe I got exposed a little bit by the ISAPN when they came to our school, and also by the Graduate Student Nursing Academy, which I was a part of as well. I think you kind of mentioned them a bit. I think that involvement in nursing organizations and really at that point in time, nurse practitioner organizations is big, because the other thing that I think helped expose me a little bit more when it came to reproductive health and women's health when it came to policy was the NPWH, Nurse Practitioners and Women's Health. And so I really want to encourage everybody that's listening to also think about the nurse practitioner organizations that you're a part of, no matter if it's on the student level, if it's on the state level, if it's on the specialty level. All of those things will help to kind of keep you aware of what's going on, and being able to, advocate, and then get your family and friends and colleagues to also advocate and make those phone calls and sign those letters and do those things. Everybody may not be like Dr. Patrice Little here and, getting even further involved and, helping lead things and inviting people and doing all those things, but you do need to get involved because it makes a difference. People ask me sometimes, would you consider moving out of state or going and practicing someplace else? And it's just like, for me, someone who works in women's health, that's hard, because reproductive rights all over the states are different, and that can restrict your practice. And I don't want to lose my license, my livelihood be threatened because of what I do, because I want to give factual education and full options for patients for whatever that may be. But I digress. But again, political awareness and involvement is truly important. And I'm glad that you are doing your part. So thank you so much for your additional service and dedication to policy for healthcare.
It's a pleasure.
Yes. So I want to stop out and do one more commercial, come right back, and then we want to finish out with some of your announcements and things that we want to hear more about.
Thank you.
You're listening to an episode of Listen Up Future Nurse Podcast. Scan the QR code if you're watching, or click the link in the podcast show notes to get your virtual remote. Make sure to tune in and subscribe on Spreaker, and follow us on all your favorite podcast locations. And watch us live online on all of your favorite social media sites. Do you have ideas about who would be a great guest on this show, or perhaps you have a topic that you want discussed? Let us know. Send me an email at info@nursinginspired.com or text at 773-609-0649.
All right, so we are back. We have talked about so much. My God, you are just full. I mean, you are beaming full of just so much, with inspiration, with purpose, with your background, just the different realms of who God made you to be. I mean, with, things and policy, you're a nurse practitioner, you have your own school, build it and they will come, as they say, build it and they will come. You have your own school, your own book, your own magazine, you have a boot camp. I mean, you are just really full. And I'm glad that you're able to pour from your cup to give to others who are seeking to become nurse practitioners. And so to kind of round out, I really wanted to, I don't think we got a chance to touch on this, but the misconceptions when it comes to your nurse practitioner educations and the things that they don't tell you. Tell us more, with all of this experience, education, and everything you've put into this, what the folks need to know.
Wow. Okay. So I'll say what they don't tell you at the very beginning if you do not have hands-on training, that the transitioning is not as easy in the sense that you've never really applied those critical thinking skills. So what happens is you're literally going from novice RN to novice NP.
Mm.
Novice RN to novice NP.
Okay.
And that idea is not my original one, even though I subscribe to it. That is from Gail Adcott. And she is she's a state legislator in North Carolina, and she's amazing. And we had this conversation. She says that's one of the challenges that goes on. So you're going into practice and supposed to practice at a level, NP practice at a level of competency and expertise.
Yes.
But it's not, today's nurse practitioners are not yesterday's nurse practitioners. Years ago, because that's how it was in Brunel, and I started there in 2010. They wanted some years of experience as an RN because that gave you some form of development.
Yes.
And I know people may say, like, wait a minute, Dr. Little, so are you saying that I shouldn't apply to NP school even though I'm getting ready to graduate? That's not necessarily what I'm saying. What I'm saying is what you're not going to understand is that once you get into the role, there's still going to be some unsurety. And that's not called imposter syndrome. That's called lack of competence.
Tell it.
Which is
Tell it.
different, because imposter syndrome, you at least you have the knowledge, you could explain things. And when I say explain, as in confidently, and your thoughts are fully developed, not regurgitate, because we're in that season when we have a lot of regurgitators and duplicators. And I'm trying to help form originators.
You better tell it.
So that's what I'm in the business of doing with my platform, because it's one of those things where even when you get to the highest of your profession, I have the DNP. I've tried to work in academia in a sense of for ASN program that didn't work. I worked adjunct at Georgia Baptist, which I love. That worked.
Okay.
That worked because Georgia Baptist does a great job of vetting their students. So no issues, no complaints. It has always been a delight serving. So what ends up happening is when you get to the height of your career where there isn't an actual position for you because you are a thought leader, what they don't tell you is that you have to learn how to package your expertise. How do you package your expertise? That's not taught in school. Oftentimes people say you can become a consultant. Yeah, I do consultant work now, but look at my whole platform that justifies why I can serve as a consultant and my expertise. Especially, I always like to mention with the trademark with NP Student. Why is it that years and years and years, over 60 years, and no one thought about securing an NP Student trademark?
Yes.
And so forth. And because I work in media, I have great intellectual property attorneys and things like that. So when it comes to publications, as well as not just trademarks, but also your copyrights and things like that, I trust all what they do, but I get it. And those are things that you're not really taught. So I say that as in when you get to the height of your career, because we talked about what happens when you get ready to go in the NP career and what you may not know. But then what happens when you get to the end of it? I've been an NP for over 10 years. And in the middle, as in my 5th year being NP, that's when NP student came to me. What happens when you're the one who thinks up? One of my advisors would say, man, your thinking is always up here, like in the clouds with the balloons. What happens when you're that person and you're ousted? And when you
Mhm.
speak, people don't get you. And when
Mm.
you go to the meetings in academia and people roll their eyes because they just don't get you. It's not that
Mm.
you're saying anything off. It's just they just don't get you.
Mhm.
What you do is you stay secure in who you are, be yourself, keep working. Don't put energy in trying to explain what you're doing, because what you end up doing is you delay it once again. You delay and you prolong, you get into your destiny. And sometimes it may take some time because there's inner work that you have to do.
Mhm.
But those are things that people they don't tell you. Some of those things may not per se be something that you would learn in NP school when it comes to personal development. And
Yeah.
that's the gap that we feel. Like, do you even like yourself when you get up in the morning before you get ready to treat your patient? Because if you don't feel good about yourself, how are you going to make other people feel good?
Mm-mm. You better tell it. You better tell it. My God. Yeah, you are so right about that and so many things. I love what you talked about with what they don't teach you, because as I think back, everything was, it was those courses. It was, it was the common problems, and it was the pathophysiology, and it was the pharmacology, and it was all of the
Yep.
courses.
4 Ps. Yep.
But yeah, I am so glad that I did not go from novice nurse to novice nurse practitioner, because, what is it now? Since 2018. So I've been, nurse practitioner for a little bit, but I'm still learning every single day, and
Mhm.
it's like, but I couldn't imagine not having that nursing knowledge, skill, ability to be relatable to patients and deliver good patient education, and explain medications in a certain way and how certain things, because a lot of times I hear all the time from patients, they always say to me, nobody's ever told me that. Nobody's ever broke it down that way to me, you know. But had I had have gone straight from, nursing school to nurse practitioner, I don't know how much of that I could really truly deliver to patients. And so I'm really glad that you shared that piece. And then just also thinking about the personal development, all the things that we don't think about, which is why I'm so glad that you have your platform, which is so terribly important, because yes, nurse practitioners have been around for some time now. And there's been nurse practitioner organizations at the national level and even state level. And although they will have some, parts of what they do that will cater to NP students, nobody specifically is working in that niche. And you are that person. And so I'm so glad that you have created the NP student brand and platform, really, and all of your framework and all the things that you do. So now, as we get ready to close out, tell us everything that we need to know, whatever announcements that you have, how we can follow you on social, because I know you got some things brewing.
Yes. Tomorrow, because I don't know if this is timestamp, but tomorrow, August 15th,
It is.
2024, we are dropping our August issue of NP Student Magazine. This is our essentials issue. This is a relaunch from our 2021, where we took a break at the from 2022 to 2024 for personal reasons. But the thing is, this we came back with the right people on board. Sometimes that's how it happens. Sometimes you just have to take a pause in order to come back. We get to highlight our former editor-in-chief intern, Dr. Elizabeth Francis, who is a Duke graduate, a 2024 Duke graduate. from the psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner program. So she's on the cover. We have the support of Duke. We have partnered with our state level organization here in Georgia, United Advanced Practice Registered Nurses. We have the support of Collaborating Docs. And for those of you who are tuning in who plan on starting your own practice in a reduced or restrictive practice state and you need a supervising physician, Collaborating Docs is where you need to go. We also have DME Connected. DME is short for durable medical equipment. When I say we have the essentials, we have the essentials for back to school. Jonathan Yamas, who is from California, he is amazing. He's always about inspiration. And he talks about some of those must-haves that you need in NP school. I mean, when I say, Fallon, I was happy that I put out the first issue, but I have never been more than happy to put out the first issue for a relaunch.
Yeah.
When you
Yeah.
relaunch. And so you can access that on issue for NP Student Magazine. That it comes out. It's digital because that's where we are now. You can always email me at info@npstudentmagazine.com or info@npstudent if you're interested in a hard copy, because those cost and we have to order those. And then also NP Student Bootcamp is a course 4 hours, and it's taught along with Dr. Emmanuel Imanagi, who is a pharmacist out in Reno, Nevada. He is very young and has an awesome way of teaching pharmacology, so you could be secured in your prescribing basics as a nurse practitioner student and eventually as a nurse practitioner professional. So we have quite a bit of things going on. So be sure to follow us at NP Student Mag on Instagram and Facebook, NP Student Magazine on LinkedIn, and our YouTube channel. And just thank you again, Fallon, for the opportunity to showcase this platform. That way we could better serve, care for the ones who are eventually going to care for us, because one day we're going to get old.
Yes, absolutely.
So we have to definitely we have to definitely make sure we cultivate this generation of nurses, because they're going to care for our friends and family. So
Yes, they are. Yeah, because that's what's happening in the nursing world. Folks are not only navigating from the nursing professional world to nurse practitioner role, but people are retiring from both. And so at some point in time, we definitely will need that care. Did you have something coming up for the month of September 1st?
Yes, I
something
do.
happening?
Thank you. Best of NP Student. All righty.
All
So
right.
what happens is, are you guys familiar with how people have they always have these sexiest man alive issues, or the best of beauty, or some type of thing that you see in magazines. And so at NP Student in 2020, we started Best of NP Student. And we started highlighting in those organizations, podcasts, as well as different types of books and supplemental resources and nurse practitioner exam prep, all of those types of essentials that students said, hey, this is good. This should be talked about. This should be encouraged and promoted. And so that's what the Best of NP Student is. So the Best of NP Student, we are asking you to start nominating on September 1st. Visit npstudent.com and our social media for the link so you can nominate the Best of NP Student. So the best of these different types of resources, and even influencers, right? We got to have a spot for them that have really been inspirational and just had an impact in your journey as an NP student. And no, you don't have to just be an NP student. You can be a practicing nurse practitioner. You can be an NP faculty, and make those nominations. So, because sometimes it's like not about us. We see this a lot in the nursing realm. a lot of accolades to people on an individual level. But what
Mhm.
about those who have platforms such as Nursing Inspired podcasts that are doing like diligently making sure they help cultivate the community and not really being they're not being recognized, but they're doing
Mm.
great work. That's what
Mm.
we're about. And this is also part of our vetting process in the
Mm.
sense where we get to vet, and then we also will have it open again for ambassadors. Ambassadors get a 1-year subscription to NP Student Magazine, which is a quarterly publication. So
Oh.
it comes out in August, November, February, and June. And so what happens is we are opening up that. We are looking for 10 to start with all over the nation, as well as in the international area as well. And the whole goal is to really encourage other students to benefit from what we have to offer in NP Student Magazine, not just the discounts and not just the services, but the inspiration, those stories. We have to highlight things like one of my favorite story in the August issue that comes out tomorrow is durable medical equipment 101.
Mhm.
What is it? Where is it? And why does it matter?
Mm.
And Fallon, I don't know if you remember this, but in MP school, they're not teaching you how to order durable medical
That
equipment.
I still.
Because I'm thinking with for you, your women's health, so they need the breast pump, right?
Oh, yeah,
They need
yeah.
those types of equipment. How do you go about ordering it? It's like that is an essential part of NP practice.
Mhm.
Your asthma patients, if you want to be a pediatric nurse practitioner, what about ordering them the nebulizer? The patient with diabetes, not
Mhm.
diabetes patients, but patient with diabetes, and you'll learn that in school.
Yep.
The patient with diabetes, how are they going to get the AccuChecks, checks, or how do you get that set up so they can continue to check their blood sugars, or even you ordering them where that self-monitoring, or the
Yes.
patient who has hypertension and they need a blood pressure cuff.
Mhm.
Because statistically, it's like I want to say, I think I saw it on DME Connected page today, about 70% of practitioners are still using the fax machine to order durable medical equipment. That is antiquated.
Yeah.
And DME Connected, they exist specifically to streamline this process to, number one, make sure you order the correct equipment, make sure that it's covered by your patient's insurance carrier, right? And then also to just make sure that it's actually ordered on time. So it's streamless, because
Wow.
sometimes that's part of that gap in care.
Yes. Yes, yes,
It's
yes.
that continuity. It's not just the assessment and getting your differentials and prescribing. What about even those equipments? So that's our job. Our job is to do that, and we
Yeah.
do it well.
Yes, yes, we do. Yes, we do. But we need some work. And I'm so glad that you I'm so glad that you have that because
Yeah.
um yeah, because we also see for me and Gyne, patients that have issues with incontinence, and
Yes.
trying to figure out how to order the pads and all of that.
Yes.
It's like,
Yes.
which company are we using? Are we faxing this? What form? Yeah, it's a whole thing.
I'm going to do a post about that today, Fallon. Thank you. My
Oh, okay.
inspiration.
Wow.
I'm listening. I am lit. You have to be a good listener to do a magazine. I'm telling you.
Yes, 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 indeed. And I'm so grateful for your inspiration for that. Because that is quite an undertaking. This podcast is enough for me. I'm still learning.
Yeah.
Um, but you have a magazine here. You have the relaunch of your magazine starting tomorrow. Then you got the voting coming up starting September 1st. Students can also become ambassadors and get free copies for a whole year. And
Yep.
you said you're looking for 10 ambassadors, I think you said?
I am looking for 10 ambassadors
Yes.
nationally. And
Okay,
there are
awesome.
some schools, so be on the lookout. Some schools are receiving a complimentary digital issue of NP Student Magazine. So be on the lookout to see if it's going to be your school. They
Okay.
are for that first issue. Just to, it's always good to, we are aware about our market, but just to make sure that students are really saying, yeah, okay, I am enjoying this. I am going to continue to spread the word. So be on the lookout. So
Okay.
it's going to be in the East Coast, in the middle, and West Coast, South. So
All right. A little bit of everywhere.
everywhere.
Future MPs, make sure that you subscribe to this magazine and get that book. You have it. Can you show it again for us so that we can know on the lookout? So
Yes.
Think Like an MP, y'all. And are you doing any book signings at all coming up in your area?
Absolutely. So we have a book signing on November 9th, Saturday, November 9th, 2024 at Liberty Books in Lawrenceville, Georgia. It will be from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. We're going to highlight specifically what the election results have to do with the nursing profession. So that's really our theme because it's around election, the election time. So that's what we're going to talk about, have a book discussion. We're going to have Yolanda Lewis be the moderator. She has been featured. She's done TED Talks and she publishes as well. Many individuals publish book, and she was actually my writing coach. Because everybody needs a coach. That's why Nursing Inspired and all the services you have exist. Everyone needs a coach. Experts need a coach. That's what makes you an expert, because you have someone looking over it to make sure you're producing something correctly.
Absolutely. So folks in the Georgia area, make sure to get your copy, get your signed copy, and meet the renowned Dr. Patrice Little. It has been such an honor and pleasure to have you here today. And I'm looking forward to our viewers and listeners to be able to follow you and to really just glean and gain from everything that you're able to share with, with the nursing community, especially the future MPs. So back to NP School, how NP Student Magazine supports future MPs. We have done that deal. I thank you again, Dr. Patrice Little, for being my guest today.
It's been a delight, and I hope all the listeners were inspired.
Thank you. Nursing Inspired family and visitors, did you know that this podcast has a supporters club? By becoming a supporter of the show for just $7 a month, you can play an active role in helping me to continue to produce the content that you love. You can also consider making a one-time donation, no matter if that's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, you know the rest. Do that. You can do that from the virtual remote, or you can do that on our Nursing Inspired website. And help us out, because I'm going out into the community and I am sharing about how to become a nurse with youth out here as young as 10 years old, grammar schools, high schools, back to school fairs, career fairs, health fairs. And so help me to help others and to help to make this future bright for future nurses. And then one more thing, students, if you are listening or watching, or if you know a student, you can get a 10% discount on any of the coaching courses or on organizational spreadsheets that I have by mentioning podcast in your discovery call, or you can text NURSE to 773-609-0649. All right, it's a wrap. Make sure to watch us live, listen to your favorite podcast locations, leave us a review, or if you'd like to reach out to support this podcast, reach out to me as a speaker, or sign up for coaching, please use your virtual remote.
You can give us a review on your favorite place to listen or watch this podcast, such as Google, Yelp, or Trustpilot. And you can reach those from the virtual remote as well by scanning the QR code on the screen or by visiting bit.ly/Future Nurse Podcast. Love what we're doing and want to create live streams like this? You can access the sign-up referral link in the show notes for StreamYard. If you'd like to be organized like the virtual remote, consider making one for your next event or as a link in bio with Societap. Please support this Black female-owned company and get yours today.